Hey everybody, welcome back to Chris's Trains and Things. Wait a minute. Hang on, something's not right. That's better. Today, we're going to be talking about some of my favorite engines from my collection. So let's do it right here on Chris's Trains and Things. All right, everybody. So today we're going to be going through some of the engines, maybe some of the ones that I have in front of me, maybe some of the ones that are on the wall behind me, and some that might be on the layout, or maybe in other places of my house. But we're going to talk about my favorite locomotives in my collection. Now, I'm going to be talking about my favorite engines, but I want to hear from you. What are your favorite engines? What's the favorite engine that you have in your collection? Or maybe the favorite engine you had in your collection, but for one reason or another, parted ways with. Maybe you regret that decision. Maybe it was a needed necessity. Maybe you've gotten out of the hobby and so you sold it off then, but it was still your favorite locomotive. So we're gonna be going through these today. I want you to add those to the comment section below. Now, for today's video, we're gonna be breaking up into three categories. We're gonna be talking about steam, we're gonna talk about diesel, and then we're also gonna talk about conventional. Because I've got some conventional engines as well. No, I don't show them all that often here on the channel. In fact, I haven't shown them at all on the channel, except for maybe one video of my dad's old locomotive during my thankfulness video. But I've got a couple and I want to highlight which one's my favorite. So let's get started. All right, to get started, we're going to go way back and we're going to start with conventional. Now, I have actually only 3 conventional engines in my collection, and they're all from when I was a child. I haven't purchased any conventional engines since I got back into the hobby after I graduated from college. So of those 3, the favorite is the one that's sitting right here. This is my Reading 462 that I received when I was a child. I think I was about 4 years old when I was gifted this engine from my grandfather. And I can remember carrying that circle of Lionel tubular track up the steps, trying not to scratch the wall because I didn't want to disconnect it because I thought that it wouldn't run again. So I get it to my bedroom and just keep running this train over and over again. I have many fond memories of running this with my old Lionel KW transformer. And, you know, it's one of those things that just gets you into the hobby. That first locomotive, what's better than that? So that's got to be why this is my #1 engine from my conventional collection. Now, like many kids when I was younger, I had a lot of floor layouts, just setting the tubular track up in my bedroom, running the train for a couple of days, and then it would find its way back to the closet for a little bit. I had shelves in my room, and this was on display in my room until I graduated from college, or until my dad sold the house while I was in college, rather, and it got boxed up, and then I was given it. He gave it to me again after we had bought our second house, and I had a space to display it. Now, it is on a Glenn Snyder display shelving shelf in our office upstairs, with some Pullman cars that my dad gave me for my birthday a couple years ago, which is great. Now, back when I was a child, I had a pretty large unfinished basement. I remember my dad and I trying to set up our own layout at one time, and we used a couple 4x8 sheets of particle board and had 2 loops of Lionel track. I had this on one loop, and then I had an Amtrak set on another. Maybe one day we'll break that Amtrak set out. I still have that in the back. And, you know, we never really got too far with that layout. It had those 2 main loops. We had a trestle incline. We had an idea for a mountain. We actually had some chicken wire set up and had plaster Paris, but we didn't really know what we were doing. And he wasn't too invested in it, which is understandable. There was a lot of other things and other projects going on at the time. And then we ended up planning to finish the basement, so that all had to get torn down. And at that point, that's when all the trains kind of went into the boxes. So it's nice to have this piece out and displayed. It has a lot of sentimental value to me. There's nothing quite like the smell of an old Lionel conventional engine running around the track. So really happy to have this in my collection. This is my top conventional engine. What is your favorite conventional locomotive in your collection? Maybe it's just your favorite locomotive altogether, but maybe you have some conventional and some modern. So which one is it? Go ahead and drop it in the comments below, and then we're going to move on to our next category. Next, we're going to talk about my favorite diesel locomotive in my collection. Now, this one was tough. I've got a lot of diesels in my collection, and to be honest with you, when I was younger, I always wanted a freight diesel in my collection. I had the Reading steam locomotive that you saw. I had an Amtrak set that I was given, and then like a ready-to-run Amtrak set, and then I had some Williams Budd cars that I was also given. And I just remember always seeing like freight diesels, and I was like, oh, I need one of those. I want one so bad. And I was never given one. And so when I got back into the hobby, the first one that I saw that I purchased when I ended up acquiring a collection from someone who was getting out of the hobby, and actually my sister-in-law was buying this person's house, and so I was able to purchase a lot of things for a great price, which helped propel me back into the hobby, was this engine right here, the Norfolk Southern Heritage Interstate ES44 AC. Now, this engine's gorgeous, the creamsicle, right? But what else did I also get when I purchased that collection? The Santa Fe war bonnet. How can this not take the cake? Now, this set, obviously right here, what's sitting here is just one of the A units from the ABBA set that I purchased. Now, this is the set that runs, it has TMCC. I did a video on this titled Classic Lionel Trains or something like that a few months ago. But we'll have some running clips of this come up with the passenger cars that I purchased later on. These were built in 2005. As I said, they have TMCC. We have 2 powered A units and a powered B unit. And then I have another dummy B unit that comes with it as well. Now, why is this my favorite? Well, when I was a child growing up, and I think I mentioned this also in my thankfulness video, my uncle had a set of the post-war war bonnets, Santa Fe war bonnets, and I just remember those being like the gold standard for Lionel diesel locomotives. And so when I had the opportunity to purchase a set, not just the AB, but the ABBA set, I couldn't turn it down. So these will, if financially I never have to, these will never leave my collection. Even though I don't run them all that often, I think they're due to go to SID for just a tune-up. Nothing's going to get updated about these. We're not going to change them out of TMCC. Those really deep TMCC sounds are just fantastic in these, but they do need a tune-up. So I think a trip to SIDS is probably going to be needed, but these things are wonderful. The paint is beautiful. And so I couldn't be happier to have these in my collection. So these would be my favorite diesel locomotive in my collection. What's your favorite diesel locomotive in your collection? I hope you've added your conventional engine in a comment. Go ahead down and add another comment. If you've already submitted that one, that's fine. You can add more than one comment. What's your favorite diesel locomotive in your collection? And again, if that engine has maybe left your collection and you regret it or you just miss it, you can talk about that one. It doesn't have to be a Lionel engine. This one happens to be. Now, a lot of talk about MTH engines recently on my channel. I have a PS3 AEM7, Amtrak AEM7 from MTH. That is an awesome engine. In fact, that was actually pretty close to being displayed up here, and that's why I had it on my table at the very beginning of my video. But just nothing's going to beat these out. So, without further ado, it's time to move on to modern steam. Here it is, my favorite modern steam locomotive. And if you follow my channel, you know I'm fortunate enough to have some great modern steam locomotives. Now, I don't have any MTH steam locomotives, so don't yell at me about not picking an MTH steam locomotive. I do hope to acquire one soon if I can find the right one for the right price and the time's right. But, so we know that this is going to be something that's probably Lionel, and you know which ones I have. So if maybe you're watching the premiere, what do you think this happens to be? If you're not watching the premiere, throw it in the comments what you think my favorite steam locomotive is. It's one that I run quite a bit on my channel. And if you know me, there's a big hint right in front of you as to what this happens to be. So let's go ahead and do our big reveal. There it is. It's the Penske M1A from Lionel. Now, this is an engine that I sought after for a very long time, and many of you know that I'm a big Penske fan. That big hint that was right in front of you is my shirt. Typically when I'm doing videos, I'll wear my Pennsylvania Railroad shirt. It's just something that I like. When I go to shows, I'll wear this, so if maybe people would recognize me that way. But I'm a big Penske fan. I live in Pennsylvania, and I thought, you know, growing up, living close to the Railroad Museum in Strasburg, we see a lot of these big old Penske steam locomotives, and honestly, their history is just fascinating and some of the things that they came out with. So we won't get into too much Penske history today, but this is the just cream of the crop Penske locomotive. You know, it's not a K4, but the M1 is just a massive locomotive. It's got the 482 wheel arrangement. It's got the long haul tender. I sought after this set for a long time. I missed the Pennsylvania coal hauler set that came with this locomotive and a bunch of GLA coal hoppers and a caboose. And I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it. No one was selling it. And then eventually I was able to snag one of these off of the forum. This engine's great. It features legacy controls. You know, so we've got our normal legacy controls. It's got whistle steam, which for when this came out, you know, mid 2010s, whistle steam wasn't on every locomotive. So really happy that it's got the whistle steam effect on here also. The distance between the tender and the cab really isn't all that far compared to some other locomotives. And just the long haul tender is just so neat with the beautiful Pennsylvania lettering on it. This thing is just fantastic. So there you have it. Those are my 3 favorite engines from my collection. And maybe you don't agree with me, but that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. I want to hear why you don't agree with me, or what's your favorite modern steam engine? We haven't had a chance to do that. Throw that in the comment section. If you have a modern steam engine, which one's your favorite? And maybe if you don't have any engines in your collection, that's okay. There's always a time to acquire things down the road. So if you've seen some of the other engines that I have in my collection, what's one of the ones that you would have picked based on the collection that I have? I'm very blessed to have the collection that I have. It's taken a lot of time to build up to this. And again, just like the other locomotives that we talked about today, if I can manage it, this will not leave my collection either. This engine is just absolutely fantastic, and it's too fun to run. The sounds are fantastic. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining me today. If you don't follow, make sure you follow me on Instagram, Chris Mon Trains on Instagram. That'll pop up here soon. Got some more content coming out here in the next few weeks. So really appreciate you watching. Share the video out there on social media. Spread the word. We've got York is going to be coming up here before we know it. I realize it's still cold and it's still winter time here, but April York's coming up. I'm not sure what my plans are for that just yet, but it was a lot of fun in the fall going to meet a lot of you. So maybe that'll motivate me to try to get out there for a half day if possible. So with that, thank you all so much. Like the video if you haven't already. Really appreciate it if you're subscribed. If not, please subscribe to the channel and have an awesome day. Thanks again for being here and watching my video on my favorite locomotives. Take care.